To begin this, we're going to start off with a simple definition of what collaboration is. And I prefer to look at just the last one. Collaboration is a recursive process where two or more people or organizations work together to realize shared goals by sharing knowledge, learning, and building consensus. It is not just a data dump, and I'm going to emphasize that several times during the day because some people think SharePoint is just a place to dump all their files. It is not meant for that. Collaboration is the interaction between people and the sharing of files to do that interaction. So basically the definition of collaboration is anytime that you have any cause, a task, a mission, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, it probably won't take you long until you find that progress is hindered by a lack of awareness of what's going on, a lack of cooperation. That never happens here at OCPS, right? Duplicated efforts because people don't know what other people are doing, wasted resources, again, because they don't necessarily know what other people are doing, ineffectiveness, and outright conflict, which of course, outright conflict never occurs here either, so we don't have to worry about that part. But it is not a file dump. It is not a file archive. It is not a place only for administrators to post information for the rest of the staff. It is not a replacement for your school transfer folders. So basically, collaboration is a way of organizing information for your teams. And depending on the level of your school, teams may be defined differently. At the elementary level, teams are more likely to be defined by grade level. As you go up into the higher grades, they're going to be defined more likely by courses. Like you might have the English department or the science department. So your school, your individual school might define team differently, but you all have teams of some sort. Some of you may, in middle schools, have a combination of both. You have teams that are kind of loosely associated as part of the grade level, but then you also have collaboration within a curriculum or within a course level. It's also organizing and storing your active documents, and I want to emphasize active documents because we're not talking about a file dump. And there are ways that you can synchronize your content in SharePoint to your desktop. There's the ability to have a SkyDrive storage area that's built in to the collaboration in SharePoint 2013. This is not the same as the SkyDrive account if you have a Hotmail account. This is different. So if you get on and you think that the files that you have in your Hotmail account, SkyDrive, are going to show up in this one, no, they won't. They're totally different. And it's also a way to keep projects on track. We're not going to emphasize too much of that. If you're interested in learning how to use SharePoint collaboration to track projects, come to one of our open labs. We have open labs just about every month. We try to do it the second Monday of the month if at all possible. Go to signmeup.ocps.net and find out when our next open lab is. Sign up and just send us an email ahead of time if you want to talk about how to use projects, and we'll talk to you more about how you can use SharePoint to do projects. SharePoint is also sharing, and the technical definition is sharing your stuff. It doesn't matter what your stuff is. It doesn't matter if it's a document, a letter, a memo, something that you want to do for a class. Maybe it's part of your curriculum definition of what you want to cover. Whatever it is that you want to share, it's sharing information with your colleagues. It's also, even though I said it's not the only thing, it's also for the administration to let the rest of the staff know what's going on in the school. So if there's information that needs to get passed down, either to all the staff or portions of the staff, the collaboration site is a perfect place for that as well. You can take SharePoint on the go. This is different than what your WSS was because you're going to be able to access this from anywhere. It's not going to be just limited to within your school, or if you had the ability to remote in, you don't have to worry about remoting in. All you need is an internet connection, and you need to remember your username and password. But other than that, you can access it from anywhere. So the next time you go on vacation and you get bored and you don't want to deal with the rest of the family, you can go off, find a computer somewhere and play in SharePoint if you want. It's also a place to put social to work. Sharing ideas and discovering answers with your colleagues, that's considered social, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. People think that using social activities at work is just people gossiping and talking about the last night's State of the Union or talking about the upcoming Super Bowl games. That's social, but that's not what's going to go into to SharePoint. Social, as far as we're concerned, is how you share information with your colleagues. Managing your data, there are ways in SharePoint that you can put together files and structures to keep track of costs for projects, for activities, and so forth. So managing your costs, if that's something you want to go deeper into, we will not today. If you want to go deeper into that, maybe at one of our next upcoming open labs, let us know and we'll cover some of that during the open lab with you. It's also about managing risk. In the past, you had all your servers at each of the schools were managed locally, and the backups had to be done locally. Unfortunately, for some schools, the backups were not always done. And in fact, at some schools, they kind of lost all of their data because their backups weren't always done. And then they would rant and rave, but there's nothing you can do about it. The only possible thing that you could possibly do is contact the NSA and see if you can get a backup copy from them. Manage your time. You can spend more time delivering content and innovating and less time on managing infrastructure, because we're managing the infrastructure for you. We're building the basic structure, we're providing you with tools, and there's actually going to be a couple of things we're going to show you a little bit later, some templates that some of the other schools have created that you'll be able to take advantage of to implement some of the things that they've already done. We're not requiring you to do it, but we're leaving it open as an option. You can find experts because you can keep track of what other people are doing, what their interests are, what their skills are. This is an area that probably, again, we probably would cover in an open lab or maybe some videos or something a little bit later. It's not something that you probably used in the past, but it's a way that you can define information in your profile about who you are, what you like to do. Maybe you like giving presentations. Maybe your skill is explaining how to do higher level math, calculus, and you want to put that in your profile so people know that in case they have any questions that they want to ask about how to do something in calculus. But basically, it's a way to keep track of skills. If you want to use it, doesn't, again, require you. We're not requiring anybody to do it. It's up to the individual schools whether they want to implement it. I will say this, though, if you don't have everyone in the school, pretty much everyone doing it, it's kind of useless. If you only have one or two people doing it, it doesn't really help. Discover insights and answers. This is another one of the tools that's available with Excel 2013 and SharePoint, the ability to publish information through Excel, through Power Pivot, and just plain Excel spreadsheets, and display it inside a web page. For instance, anybody here from a high school knows that the high schools have been doing the senior exit survey now for the last about 4 years as a SharePoint survey. They take the SharePoint survey, we take the results of the survey, and it actually gets brought into an Excel spreadsheet with Power Pivot. And this year we're actually displaying that Excel spreadsheet inside of a SharePoint page so that anybody that has access to the page can go out, look at the page, and see the current results of the survey as of basically the current day. And you can do that with other things as well. Find what you're looking for. The entire search engine over this past year has been upgraded with what's available in 2013. I don't know how many of you go out and check and look for things on the main website, the main portal, and do searches, but the search has gotten a lot more efficient than it's ever been before. When we first took over the portal 7 years ago, you could put anything you wanted into search, guaranteed it would not find it. Now it's pretty good, and it almost gets exactly what you want. If you got to be a little bit careful about the words that you use. You have to make sure it's unique words, something that's special that really tells you what that document is about. You can't just use like a word like school, because it's going to return hundreds and thousands of documents. But if you have a specific item that you're looking for, if you can find a unique word, then putting that unique word into the search, or a couple of unique words, will be very effective at finding what you need. Desktop sync, probably again something that will either have existing a couple of documents out on our portal help site, so maybe some videos, or just come to one of the open labs. But you can synchronize your Outlook with calendars, for example, that are out in SharePoint, so that if someone wants to put in information about your school of upcoming events and you want to integrate that with your Outlook calendar, you don't have to reproduce it and enter all those events again. You can basically synchronize with what's out there in SharePoint and you can show your calendar and the SharePoint calendar either as separate calendars side by side, or you can overlay them so you can see what's actually happening on a day-by-day basis. You can also integrate with all of the Office web apps. We've been using Office web apps for the last couple of years, so that most documents, not all of them, but most documents can be viewed through just a web browser. And you can even potentially edit some of them through just a web browser. Now, if you start using some of the higher end features in things like Word or Excel or PowerPoint, you might be able to view it, but not edit it. Most of the things that are available in Word and Excel and so forth are viewable with Office web apps, but in order to edit the document, if there's some of the special features in that document, it will not open it for editing. So it depends on how that document was originally created. But that gives you the possibility, at least, if you're out on, again, vacation, and you want to go out and look at your website and maybe make some changes, you could potentially open up a Word document, even though that machine that you're on doesn't have Microsoft Word on it. And through using Office web apps, you'll be able to edit the document. As I mentioned before, it's integrated with SkyDrive. It's a local SkyDrive that will have, is it 25 gig potential, Mike?
Well, no, it's the SkyDrive Pro, which is our hardware, so we limit.
What's our limit?
I think we have a 200 meg each person right now.
200 meg. The SkyDrive from Microsoft is 25 gig.
Yeah, but that's not what's
Okay, so it's a little bit more limited, but you do have the ability to put documents up there and store them.
The reason why we limit it is because if we put 25 gigs of storage for every person in the district, that's 100 and
It's just a few terabytes.
180, 180, 120, 150,000.
It's a lot, yeah. It's a lot. Well, if you count all the schools, I think all the school staff is somewhere over 13,000. 13 to 15,000 in that range.
Yeah.
Collaboration is social. You can have personal sites. It supports RSS feeds, communities, and so forth. Again, we're not going to get into any of that today. That might be either a future video or some documents that we might put out. Some people are interested in it, but not enough really to push it yet. The support for RSS feeds, though, is kind of interesting. And although we won't cover it today, you might want to come at an open lab and learn a little bit more about RSS feeds, because RSS feeds are what are going to feed the mobile apps that the schools are going to be having. So if you have RSS feeds, those can appear in the mobile apps. That information can appear in the mobile apps. If it's not part of an RSS feed, I'm not sure if they'll be able to capture it. And then SharePoint 2013 includes improvements in search, which I mentioned, document management, document sharing, business intelligence. Again, those are topics that we won't get into in detail. We have a lot of information out on our site, portalhelp.ocps.net, and that has both documents as well as videos. And those videos include everything from things that we've done. Some of them are links to videos that Microsoft has done. There's a lot of information if you just go out to portalhelp.ocps.net, look for documentation in the left navigation, and then start going through some of the links and what we provide. There's a lot of information out there. portalhelp.ocps.net. And I think Mike Adani last year sent out an email to anybody that came to class with the links to all the things that we talk about, like Portal Help and Portal Project and so forth. So final comment here is collaboration is what you make of it and how you use it. I hope it doesn't become a data dump for people, because if it does, you're not really touching on the potential.